today. Raise our hands and show our support to the gods. Thank you all for being here.
Can we have the hands raised? And we believe in equality, and we are here to support women fraternity. And let's rise. We are there to support, and we continue to support. Thank you.
Over to you, Neerja.
Thank you so much for that wonderful setting of context, and welcome everyone. This pleasant interaction that we're going to have today. A quick introduction about myself. So I have about 25 years of experience in the IT industry. I've handled IT delivery for banking clients. I largely worked for ANZ for the longest time, and then went on to work at Capgemini and quit from the corporate world in 2017. I used to run a lot of diversity and inclusion initiatives when I was at Capgemini, and that passion took me to head a not-for-profit foundation called as Jobs for Her Foundation. And I worked there for about 18 months. The mandate was to look at how to bridge the gender gaps in our country by looking at changing mindsets of course, the women, but also the entire ecosystem around us. A hugely satisfying period. And then I moved on because I realized that I wanted to do something in the youth space. So I, of course, continue to do a lot of work in the gender space as a freelance consultant. But last year in 2020, I went and worked at a college because I felt that might be one of the ways I could impact the youth. My role was to build the Industry Academia Connect so that we could get our curriculum vetted by industry experts like all of you, and ensure that our students are ready to join the workforce as they step out of college. Meanwhile, I also continue with my freelancing. I do a lot of leadership trainings and workshops and talks, and largely in the space of women and, of course, in the young adults. And that's me for all of you. And with that, let me get on to the first question for today's discussion. And, we have always been talking about the need for gender diversity. Here we are talking about women, and we are seeing accomplished women leaders today on this panel. But the question has always been, how does that really impact the business outcomes? And I will start with that as the first question, and would request Neeti. I know that you have gone through, grown in your career, and over the years you moved into HSBC, where you started with roles in global resourcing and operations, and now you are the MD of GSC Malaysia and Global Head Workforce Management. An extremely impressive and exemplary growth story for everyone, especially for women in the workforce. How would you like to describe this journey of yours in terms of the asset that you own, which is the woman that you are? And how does being a woman bring about the differences in the way she contributes to the end business outcomes?
So first and foremost, thank you very much. I would say almost all the panelists will have similar kind of a journey grown. I think it takes a lot of conviction. There are lots of times during this career journey where you have it can't be a smooth sailing throughout. I will talk about maybe the time when my daughter was very little, and then it became real challenge, and we didn't have the luxury of working from home like we do right now, right? I think less worried on that front. But one thing I am quite a firm believer of, that I have invested, or my parents have invested in my education, and I will not be letting that go waste. I want to carry on irrespective of, because if that is your go-to position. So I think my message in many forums, and it's not a secret, that instead of dropping out, please make sure you stay in and then find that help. Shamelessly ask for help. And I still remember that with my young daughter when many years ago. So my parents and my in-laws, the travel used to be very, very organized and planned. So it has to be like either one of us has to be at home, not compromising your own career. How does it add value? Simple logic. Look at our customer base is diverse. We don't really do only banking transactions for men, right? We do it for everybody. So how do we create and build our products? How do we create our service propositions? How do we create our, entire environment? It has to be a diverse customer base that is supporting our customers as well. So I think that is the biggest driver that we have, at least in HSBC, that we acknowledge, understand what each of the diverse areas are looking for and design that. In terms of, I think and I will just say this upfront, this is my view. And again, I have men and women in my team, but I do think that the little bit of really that passion, a little bit of doing the right thing, thinking it not only just from the angle of here is the task, here is the delivery, here is the execution, heart and soul into it. I genuinely feel like as women, I think we do want to give it our all. We're really trying to be perfectionist. Being a perfectionist is not good. I don't preach it. I don't really want to myself or for my teams as well, but I do think that eye for detail and is there, and I really appreciate that, especially in work like workforce management. So at the minute, I'm very proud to say that my WFM team is also well balanced, so it's almost like a 50-50% from the leaders as well, and it's really nice to see when some debates happen and how a little bit of more we'll figure out and we'll come back. I think a diverse team really helps, and as a woman, I think you are adding that extra touch of diligence, perfection that shines. I might be biased.
That's perfectly all right. I can see how I'm trying to be perfect now, having another laptop, as a backup, and trying to get something going on my phone. I don't know if somebody else a man would stress out that much. So okay, fine, if things go wrong, we will figure it out along the way. But I think we prep ourselves so much. Backup ke liye backup. I think ensure things work fine. Thank you, Niti. That was really nice. In terms of understanding how the woman actually brings about those differences in the business outcomes that one is able to deliver. Let me move on to Bhanurekha. You've also had a very inspiring growth journey, starting from being a consultant in IIT Technologies to now managing service delivery for Sutherland Global Services. In addition, your interests and accreditations in the D&I space. I was just going through your LinkedIn profile yesterday. Has your experience in your career growth and delivering towards the organization's business goals as a woman leader been similar to Niti's? And the reason I ask is because the backgrounds have been different, right? We all have gone and worked at different kinds of organizations, industries, domains, roles. So has there been any difference? That is my first question. Any specifics that you might want to tell our audience, given that the industry that you work is different? And does the industry vertical make it different for a woman leader? Also, if you could just share your experiences of how the corporate world has enabled and helped you shape as a person at home, with family, and with the community at large.
Thank you, Neeraja. And I looked up your profile as well, and glad to know that you're an ex-NITian. So I know NITians share a common bond and invisible bond that we come from a very highly defined work culture and all of that, especially coming from Mr. Tadani and Mr. Pawar and all of that. Niti, thank you for sharing your story, and congratulations for having to inaugurate the session today. Thanks to Partho and Shiva for giving this opportunity to us. Like Niti said, right, her parents were kind enough and had the vision to educate a girl child. And especially we are talking about an age which wasn't a very important, consideration for parents. They would rather save for the girl's marriage than educate her. But her parents chose to invest in her education, which is a very revolutionary thing to do in those days, I would say. And Niti, hats off to you for actually leveraging on that opportunity and really making use of that, if I may. Okay, my story is a slightly different one, Neeraja. I did not have the privilege of going to an engineering college, though I aspired for it. I got a seat. I had everything working for me, but I come from a very traditional Telugu family. So my parents felt that they are not really get me an engineering grad, which means that they'll have to look for a guy for me who's more educated or earning more and all of that. So they really went against it. So that's a slight change in what Niti had as a journey early on. But I persisted, I stayed on because I was so excited about being an engineer and having that engineering qualification. So I finished, and when my husband came to see me, it was an arranged marriage. The first thing that I had to ask him was, hey, I want to study. If only you're going to invest in my education, can we consider this proposal going forward? And in all probability, my husband, and I told them, if the answer is no, you can go back and say I didn't like the girl. So my husband goes back and says, you know what, I like the girl, but she wants to study, so I'll give her some time. And parents being parents, they said, no way you can wait, you'll have to really, they rushed me into the marriage. But the good part is that my husband allowed me, or supported me in my education. Not really allowed, right? We don't allow anybody. So the reason I'm sharing this example is because choosing a right partner is a very important career decision. Okay, all of us should understand, if we don't have partners who collaborate with us, who support us in our career endeavors, then the battle begins there. Because if you don't have a happy home front, you don't have a happy workplace. So choosing and investing in a right partner becomes so important. Moving on from there, 8 years of NIT, I did different roles, being a corporate trainer, Microsoft certified trainer, doing MCSE trainings and all of that for corporate classes. I still remember days when we used to have those CS and computer science heads coming in and looking at a little girl standing there and trying to teach. So they would ask me things like, hey, you must be a Brahmin, or how is it that you teach computers? So, you know, as being assumptions in, having assumptions in what is it my background, why is it that I chose to teach, and how is it that I can teach computers to men who are hands-on in their own field and learning more than I. So it really challenged me. And after my 9-to-5 job that I used to do at NIT, I had to go back and prepare myself for the next class, just so I'm able to answer all these questions that they threw at me, just to see if I'm failing enough. Okay, so these challenges, I would say, come to every woman. And I'm sure all of us in this session today have had those challenges. How do we face them? Do we sulk, or do we take them as something that actually pull down our confidence? Or do we really take them as something that, you know, helps us to motivate to prepare more and prove ourselves? It is important sometimes we can ask, why do I need to prove? It's not that you're proving to anybody. You're actually proving to yourself that you're a lot more capable and you can do it. The transition from IT to ITES, Nirja, you asked me that question, BPO world, how is it? I can tell you, NIT was a very structured, strong culture, great values and all of that. Sutherland then was almost like a startup today. And the startup has its own challenges, like cultural values and all of that, and organizational behavior, discipline, support and all of that. So, and I was one of the first teams that's setting up the business, so growing the business. So I saw a very contrasting difference between how a startup works and how a well-established IT firm works. And BPO as such, it throws a very important by design challenge to women, which is that it works in the night, because all my clients were operating out of US, APAC, EMEA, and I was in India, so we were working against the clock. So especially women who have to be in the evening at home taking care of family and other chores, they really chose not to really take up, especially at the consultant level. They find but as soon as they get married, when they come to mid-management level, they really do not know how to pursue it, because they haven't been successful in creating that support network back at home, or they haven't been able to create those allies in their system who can stand up for them when they need to be successful. So by design, I would say there were very few women leaders then. Even now at senior levels, you will not see too many women leaders as compared to men. By design, this is not very woman friendly industry, but at the same time, my organization, I can tell you, is a very, very big advocate of bringing women to the forefront. I have been blessed with, my organization and my senior leadership, the CXOs, giving me very challenging assignments. I have never seen a disparity between my male colleagues getting, say, an opportunity which is really scary, or me. So if there is something which is very fiery and not really acceptable for men to do, I would say, yes, I'll give it a try. I burnt my fingers in the process. It could mean that I actually had to take a year of my growth hit, but then it proved to me that if there is a crisis and you jump at it, there is a tremendous learning, and you're also showing that you can handle crisis at ease, and more importantly, you actually deliver to the organization's needs. So what is really, really critical is, if we have to be successful, and if we are ever thinking that we are in a competitive world and how do we create a space for ourselves, go land a deal. right? All my life as a business leader, I grew my business, say, from 12 million to 35 million dollar business per annum. And that actually led my CXOs to look up to me saying, okay, if you're bringing dollars to the organization, you're expanding businesses, you're lighting up different geographies across the world, you're working in a very multicultural, multi-geo setup, and you're being successful in creating promoters for your clients, your customers, and your organization. Which organization leadership will say, no, I don't want a woman on my board, right? Everybody wants to see their bottom lines looking green, and everybody wants the EBITDAs and the margins to look green. So I would urge all the women on the session today, whoever is, if you have a passion to be a business leader, own up a P&L. Look at how you can expand the business, look at how you can grow your business, and understand the client's landscape, do a discovery, a due diligence of what are the client needs. We have different solutions and products out there, but do this suite of products really required at the client end? How is it that I'm going to match my skill set and my product line to a customer's problem? Only then we can come with a solid mix of a solution which can actually excite the clients as well as grow the business for us. What really has been a very important thing for us, Neerja and the team here, is that BPOs are a very outcome driven organizations. When I say only BPO, it is not that only BPOs are outcome driven. Every industry is, but in our industry, we live in a very perishable world. It's like the flight taking off with unfilled capacity. It's just like that. In a day, if I haven't met, and most of you are from the WFM world, so you understand that better. If a day I haven't met my service levels, I'm as good as my last day's performance. I'm as good as my last meeting. So if I have to prove myself to my client and my organization, each day's performance becomes very, very important. So therefore, it's very clear for everyone to know that BPM, though by design, is not very women friendly, but as women, Niti said that, right? We like to do multiple things, and that is something that we all have to choose to challenge, because we like the image of superwoman, right? In being a superwoman, we burn ourselves a lot. We want to be a perfect mother, a perfect wife, a perfect sister, a perfect employee, or a manager. So in doing so, we are not really leveraging on our support networks. But I would request that what has really worked for me is having a very strong supportive family network. My parents, my in-laws, my husband, everybody. So when my baby was very young and I had to travel intensely, I had my entire support system taking care of my young baby so that I could focus on my work and be successful. So these are the allies, these are the support that you have to create. Say you're not good at something which say your mother-in-law, your sister-in-law is good at. Tap on that potential, tap on that skill, leverage your family, leverage your network, and give them the due credit. And what you can do for them, pay it back, pay it forward. So I think having a very collaborative, supportive network at home and at office really, really works well. There are no boundaries for women, I would say, Nirja. If you're asking, can women be successful in BPO? Absolutely. You have an example in front of you. So BPOs or any space, whether it is aerospace or anything, women can be successful. My only request to a woman will be to avoid superwoman image, and most importantly, please invest in your learning. Live as if you were to die tomorrow, but learn as if you were to live forever. So if you are ensuring that you're upscaling and investing in your own learning, that is what is going to take you forward. How am I learning and leveraging that learning and reinvesting back into my career? That is going to be extremely important for all our women. So therefore, if women are there who can only work 4 hours now versus an 8 hours schedule in the past, like Niti said, right now all of us have the luxury to work from home and to learn from home. You can learn from any of these MOOCs, right? Udemy or Coursera or wherever, at free. So invest in a course, learn something new, or invest in while you are working from home, see what you can do better, network with different women, learn from them. In doing so, there are gig workers today. There's a gig economy rising so well. You can do a part-time 4-hour job just by being a gig worker. So pick up a skill that works for you, and you can get paid right from the comfort of your home to suit your own needs and your own skill set. And if you want to moonlight after working 4 hours to get your bills paid, you can choose to be an artist or a traveler. So this is the age of pursuing what you're passionate about, as well as making your bills paid and all of that. So that's all from me, Neerja. Any questions?
That was awesome. Am I audible? Vanurika, let me tell you, other than NIIT, so many other similarities. So, of course, I come from a Tamil Brahmin family, conservative family. I got an engineering seat, but I did not go on to study in that college because my father said it was, some remote village and he was not going to send me off. And also an arranged marriage. And very clearly he had said that if the boy comes and he says that you shouldn't study and you shouldn't work, then you should probably stop that. But then I negotiated. So a lot of similarities, and I'm so glad that, you brought that in. But today is not about me, so let's move on. Would like to ask Yamini. You started as a consultant at EY and moved multiple organizations to reach the position of Senior Director HR at IQVIA now. We definitely would like to know your journey in the healthcare sector, whether there are any differences of being in the healthcare as against, Neeti and Bhanurika in terms of what they have said and they have experienced. And your personal journey is also really incredible. I got to read about it last night, and I think it needs to be heard by all men and women out there. So could you please tell us how being a woman has enabled you to shape yourselves and your personal and professional life? I really, also insist on bringing out the personal aspects of, everyone, because I believe that professional is just one part of the entire life that we live. So definitely we wish to know how, it has shaped personal and professional life, despite the challenges that life threw at you, and how has it made you what you are today?
Right. Thank you so much, Neerja. Firstly, thanks to Shiva and Pratudha. It's a great opportunity to be connecting with everybody. I had the privilege of meeting a few earlier. Thank you so much. Neerja, to answer your question, I would basically say all of us, ideally, when you talk about any career or any kind of, whatever opportunity that we take, it does not differentiate between men and women. It's some of these are boundaries that we create ourselves. I think what we need to understand is, if we really need to push ourselves and succeed, we just need to make sure that we find that balance. Need to know the boundaries, need to know the balances in every aspect of our personal and professional lives. And the only thing that I can think of, and what I connected with what Neeti mentioned earlier, is just keep going forward. You need to push yourself all the time, and even if you're steering out of direction, you need to correct your course in the way. My personal life, don't want to dwell too much onto it, but yeah, it's been a great journey, I would say. Whatever challenges life threw at me, it has been a learning opportunities, and it has helped me. And see, basically, because of the personal life, I had the opportunity to venture into different industries or different groups. So I managed to touch right from consulting of E&Y to probably, where I am today. But because of relocations due to husband's organization and career, and because of child is taking a break in between, because you are a single pair, you're managing your single child. So all this has actually contributed, but I would say I looked at everything as a positive opportunity. You just grab everything, take care of it, don't look at it as something like a hurdle, right? And for me, coming into the healthcare industry, I would say the last 5 years have been a phenomenal learning, not because it is healthcare industry, because being in HR, it's a great honor that you get to experience, and you evolve with each organization and industry that you work with, right? I worked with BPO, I worked with software industries, I worked with telecom and networking, and healthcare is probably just one of the domains that I'm been working. Industry as such is not very different. It's just that you get to experience a lot more from a different perspective. This industry thankfully has seen a lot of boom, even in spite of the COVID pandemic last year. So I would say this is one industry which has really kept us on the toes and kept us extremely busy, because we were hiring in numbers, we were actually putting our people everywhere, we were actually doing projects for governments, we were doing projects for multiple pharma industries and organizations across the world. So it has really kept us busy. But when you ask me about how the journey of a women leader shape up, especially in healthcare industry, I would say it actually sometimes it depends on in organization to organization. um, Thankfully I am in a organization which actually gives a seat at the table for everyone. You know, a women leader does not get differentiated due to whatever is the reason. We get to be part of each and every decision. We get to actually decide on course of actions. We get to actually participate in everything, right from business reviews to financials. So I would say yes, last 5 years I've also learned to be on the finance side, the business side, and you know, you actually understand the entire nuances of the healthcare industry, right from say clinical trials to how it actually goes out to pharma industries as consulting projects, or how we assist maybe governments in various public health schemes. I've had that opportunity, and I've led some of these as you know, project heads, where not just as an HR person but where you're actually contributing along with the business. I would say it's been a phenomenal journey. Thank you for that question, Neerja.
Thanks, Yamini. And I think it is something special to be in the healthcare industry in 2020. And you kind of use that as an opportunity to build on whatever your core strengths are. As you said, that you went on to do projects. And what I gained from this, and what Bhanureka was also mentioning about try and do different gigs, is what we also speak about being a T-shaped individual, right? Most of the organizations today, I think, are emphasizing on picking up talent who are T-shaped, which is, of course, deep in the subject matter that they own, and also a variety of other skills which can, you know, be as broad as the horizontal of the T can be, which you've experienced and elaborated fantastically. Kankana, let me move on to you. So your career journey started by being the business HR head for a group of scientists. And through the years, you've grown to be the chief people officer of Tally Solutions, and then you took a sabbatical. What prompted you to take a sabbatical? If that's something that you can tell the audience, then we would definitely like to know that, because you were at the height of your career at that point in time. And it's not very easy for someone, you know, at that kind of a helm of their career to decide to take a sabbatical. And have you seen and believed that a man would have taken a sabbatical at that point in time in his career? How easy was it for you to get back into the corporate world as a group CHRO at Healthium MedTech now? I ask this because I have worked with many women. I told you that I was heading the jobs for her foundation. I have mentored a lot of women who've been wanting to restart their career after a break, small or big, doesn't matter. And it has always been a struggle for them to get back to work. So I really want to understand for you at such a senior position how that journey was, and how do you believe that the industry can have an open mindset to anyone taking a sabbatical, so that we will also have men coming forward to take a break when there is a need to support the family, and also the women can, you know, continue their careers if their, you know, spouses or someone else in the family can support. Otherwise, we always see, you know, the women who's kind of not necessarily saying sacrificing, but yeah, taking the decision to go on a break and then figure out if, you know, life can give her a second innings in the career again. Also, when a woman wants to restart, what changes would you want to establish in the industry so that it enables the woman rather than it becoming an impediment for her?
Thank you, Neerja. Firstly, thank you everybody for being a part of this webinar. Partho and Shiva for inviting me, and all the panelists here. Most of you all must be seeing it that my name is popping up as Vaijanti. Thanks to Vijay. I've hijacked her the Heidi. I'm actually Konkana. And to your question, actually multiple questions. I will take one at a time, and maybe I may be missing in between. But actually my career starts much ahead of the group of scientists. So probably it wasn't clear in the LinkedIn profile. So I started my career in a true sense with IFB Bosch, which was a manufacturing company, and then stayed on with SMT Corporation, a tea company, for almost 9 years. And during this time, I had my 2 kids. I was not only the HR head of that company, I was the IR head, the head of legal, and the official company secretary. For all of you to know, I'm not a I don't come from any of the B schools, nor do am I an MBA. I'm a qualified company secretary and a law graduate, but chose to take a career which kind of matches with the passion I had. And the passion was closely around working with people. When I heard with so many people, one of you are saying that one comes from China, Chennai, one comes from Andhra, Hyderabad, and you all come from families where studies were not a priority for girl child. Today, I really feel privileged to say that I come from that ethnicity background, or I come from that state where women probably are given much more importance than a man. I am an Assamese. I come from Northeast. While I don't belong to a matriarchal family, but for us, there's no difference between a man and a woman. And what a man can do, a woman can do, maybe even better. So I never had my mental orientation has been very different. To me, it doesn't bother who is a man, who is a woman. I'm going out at 10 o'clock in the night, globe-trotting the whole places all alone. It doesn't bother me because that's how we have grown up. Having come from a background where I worked in a manufacturing industry with an IR background, when I moved to Chennai in 2005, and I decided to take a break for my daughter, that's when indeed that's an experience which I would like to share. Then what you asked me, Nirja, is about taking that 6 months of sabbatical. The 6 months of sabbatical was a cakewalk. So I think, Nirja, you asked this question about the difficulty I faced in getting into taking a 6 month sabbatical before Healthium. That was not at all difficult. That was the most easiest, and I'm so glad I did that. The difficult part in getting into a sabbatical was when I moved from Assam, left my tea corporation job for 9 years, and moved to Chennai. I actually had to fight multiple odds. I had to fight multiple odds simply because of the fact that Chennai, I felt the work culture in those days, I'm talking about 2003-04, was very different and very, very traditional in its way of hiring people. The number of qualified people or the general thought process was to take people in HR or any other field only if you're from a premier institute, which of course went against me completely. Two, I come from a very backward state from a corporate perspective. And most importantly, I had 2 children. My daughter was small. So I struggled for a year to get a job. I mean, firstly, people would not call me. Secondly, even if they would call, they were rejected for some or the other kind. And that's when I decided, but it never bothered my confidence. And I knew I will make it to where I want to be. I may be losing a few years, but I know I'll compensate for it. So that's when I decided strategically to join a consultant. I joined a person just to be a recruitment consultant for 2 months, and boom, my strategy worked. In 2 months, I got a job not just from one company, but from 2 companies, Sanmar and TVS. I decided to choose Sanmar because for the first time, I saw a women leader there, and that inspired me to join there. After that, actually, it's never been a looking back. I have changed industry. Whenever I change jobs, I consciously changed industry. I chose not to be in a single industry because I felt maybe I'm a very restless person. The same things kind of maybe makes me get bored very fast. So I kept hopping from industry to industry, from a tea industry to a IFB Bosch washing machine industry to a company which comprised only of scientists, worked with all scientists across the world, name any institute in the world. I may have not studied, but I worked with such people and hired people from Wharton, Stanford's, anything. And then, of course, I went to an IT product company, and now I am in a medical device company where, again, that's one industry which has survived extremely well during the COVID times. There's not been a single day that we have not come to work. The amount of bravery that I've seen in my own people, I don't need to go elsewhere. I, in fact, consider all my employees to be the true COVID warriors during this time, which has only made me see the world from the other side, that how people can be vulnerable and yet so strong during these difficult times that we are pushed into. From a perspective of asking me the question that will a person or will a man be able to take a sabbatical and come back to a similar senior position as I have had the privilege, and I would say blessings of God, to get into a very senior role with a 6 months gap? Maybe not, because I have seen that culturally or probably all across the world, the basic concept of men being the bread earner and women being the caregiver has still not changed much. A man taking a break, people still feel there's some reason for taking a break. It's we who, as women leaders, all of us are at very, very senior positions. I think we need to carve a way that men should also have the privilege of taking a sabbatical and come back with equal force, equal passion. Let them also see the other side of the coin. Why does a woman have to take a break, a sabbatical, to take care of her family? Why not a man can that? And I think I strongly believe in this concept. And personally, I recently hired a GM in HR who had taken a sabbatical for 8 months. And out of the 3 choice of candidates, I had a women employee, a women incumbent. My CEO is is someone who really encourages women leaders and women hires. But that's the time I said that I would actually go with this boy, because to me, I see the passion. I see that word in Hindi called junoon, to do something in life. And why don't I give him the opportunity? So after 8 months, I have taken that bet, because honestly speaking, when I went through his background and tried to find out, I found out that he just took a sabbatical because he had to. And I found merit in the candidate and took him. So I suppose all of us should create this path, particularly when you are in HR and in such influential leadership roles. We should be able to carve a pathway for men going on sabbatical. Probably I've answered all your questions, Niranja.
Thank you. Yes, Ankara, you've really taken us through this, and very important aspects that you have brought in mind in terms of the sabbatical, in terms of the gender, and hence the sabbatical. Yes, it is for all of us who can bring about an impact, who can influence in some ways to ensure that organizations move to what is called gender neutral policies, so that there is not much thinking that goes on in the minds of recruiters and hiring managers and business heads that should I take a woman? Will the woman take a break? Or if the man takes a break, then ask all of these questions. And I think that is where the hope lies, to kind of move slowly to gender neutral policies. And the other thing which definitely also reinforced my belief was exactly like what you said. I quit after my 25 years of corporate career, and I quit without a job. And in some ways, I did not want to go back into corporate. I didn't know how to start off something on my own. So I decided that I would go and collaborate with someone. The terms consultant, freelancer can be used, but in my head, I just wanted to collaborate with someone else. So I went and worked at a startup, and I know the startup owner, but she was finding it extremely difficult to quantify what she should pay me, because she knew I came from this organization at such a senior position. And all I told her was that just pay me what you would pay somebody else for the role, and not because you're bringing on a Ninja Ganesh. Because I knew if I was starting off on my own, probably for the next 1 to 2 years, I don't think I would have invested some money. I don't think I would have taken a salary till such point that my venture actually breaks even and shows some profits. So for me, it was a learning curve. And within 2-3 months, of course, I went on to head the jobs for her foundation. So that's another message that I would definitely want to leave with everyone, that I think one must really grab opportunities as it comes. I'm not saying that pick up whatever comes at whatever salary, but rather than sitting and mourning and trying to figure out how do I get to the next role with the next pay rise, I think if there is an opportunity presenting itself, one must look at it. Thank you again, Kankana. Now I will ask Vaijayanti, who is the real Vaijayanti on the screen. Like all other panelists here, you also have moved multiple industries and organizations in your career. And you've started as a lecturer, I understand, and then you moved into HR at Whirlpool, and through a gamut of industries and organizations. Now you're being in pharma as the associate director, Deva Pharmaceuticals. Let me ask the gender question, because we are talking about women here. Is it only a woman who navigates her career in this way? Do you see men also who kind of choose to, go through various industries, various roles? Or is it, a woman who says, okay, fine, let me explore, let me try, let me become creative and, see what that has to offer? Because I've seen people, for 25 years I was IT, and my domain was banking. So all I did was IT delivery for, banking clients. And what about being a woman helps this mindset to explore, learn and grow? How do you want to see the newer generations, especially the women, to look at their careers as, Sheryl Sandberg says in her book Lean In, that it is a jungle gym and not a ladder, right? And how does this moving inside a jungle gym actually contribute to better business outcomes?
Right. Thank you. Thanks, Partho and Shiva, and thanks to all my panelists here who've been quite patient and who've been quite enriching as well. First of all, I'd be very surprised if this question was even asked to a man. I come from a family where my great-grandmother was working as a young woman, and even now today when you go to the village where my mother belongs to, I come from a matrilineal society, so it's pretty much a given that the women in our family were educated, and I had some pretty accomplished women before me who went to school and college in the 1920s. Having said that, Neeraja, I think my backdrop really is I didn't really have a choice not to do what I did. I chose to be a single mother. I chose to take life on my own. And I also chose freedom as a concept. So if you're asking me why I moved industries, I think my baseline to life is, if I don't feel freedom, I leave a place. And I think most people in the corporate world don't understand the concept of freedom. And particularly when a woman talks of freedom, it shocks most people, and that's the patriarchy speaking. It's not just the men who speak the patriarchal language, it's the women at work who also speak the patriarchal language. And I think it's what I would tell most women who are navigating their careers is, look at what your basic ground line theme is. If your theme is finance or money, then build your career on the concept of money. Don't be apologetic. If your career theme is independence and freedom and the right to think and the right to do what you believe is right, then do that, which is what it is for me. If a place doesn't feel right, I leave. Whether it's my personal space, whether it's my professional space, I just leave. And that's okay. I think my single line to most women will be, choose what your theme in life is and go after it without an iota of apology. The day you start apologizing to yourself, you're probably ending up apologizing to the rest of the world. If you are true to what your basic ethos is, if it's family security, then that is right. If you're choosing to put your career outside of your mainstream life, so be it. There is no need to apologize for who you are. Some of the women on the screen I know personally, and I know some of the sacrifices and huge courageous decisions they've made to sit at this table today, and I think they never apologized. I've spoken to Yamini personally, to Kankana personally, I know Grace personally on the call, and I'm telling you, I know the sacrifices they've made in their lives and have never had to apologize for it. So I think that's all one should think of. Thank you.
Thanks, Vaijayanti. Grace, You worked for IBM or at IBM for 13 years and now moved to Informatica as the HR head for India. And while we see from the career journeys of all the other panelists who've explored options across industries and companies, would really like to know from you what made you stay on with one organization, and that too it's in the IT sphere, right? And it's very rare to see people kind of stay on with one IT organization for more than 10 plus years. Of course, I did that for 15 years with ANZ. Has that got anything to do, with being a woman, or is it the organization that made it worth for you to stay on? And the reason I ask this question is for women out there who are listening to us to realize that growing in a career can be done in many ways. It could be either growing into a variety of roles within an organization, or by moving industries or companies and roles. So what is that essential element that a woman needs to keep in mind when she needs to evaluate options for her career growth, such that it's not only benefits herself, but also benefits the business goals of the organizations that she moves into?
Thank you so very much, Nirja. Absolute pleasure to be here, and of course, very, very interesting perspectives when I stare at each of the boxes that has beautiful ladies out there, talk about their personal journey, right? And to start off, I want to first of all thank all of you for having me here without, calling out individual names in the interest of time. Secondly, I was never raised like a man. I was raised much better or beyond, right? So that really gave that big foundation for me to go all guns blazing in everything that I do, right? Come what may, right? Didn't really worry too much about repercussions, and of course didn't really have a very stringent plan, or didn't chalk out my career to say, okay, at this time and date, I got to be in this position, right? But what really happened, even much before IBM, was I did work for a manufacturing company for about 4 years, then worked for a couple of startups, and then landed into IBM, right? From an organization perspective, they did make you feel like you belong to the company, right? The environment was really not toxic, because that's something that is very, very key for an individual employee, be it man or woman, right? The second thing was the variety of opportunities for internal growth kept you so busy growing internally that you really didn't think about opportunities outside of IBM, right? So those are two important elements apart from the flexibility that the company provides. Now, moving on to my personal, inputs to women who are watching this or will be watching this at a later point, is a couple of things, right? In each of our careers, we got to adapt to a go fast, go slow mode. Not every time can all of us really be at a 200 kilometers an hour kind of a speed, right? And you got to take that to your stride and say, because I've had 2 pregnancies when I was with IBM, and both of them were high risk pregnancies where 18 months in, both put together, I was in bed, right? But still, I did not take a single day off, because it was my commitment to say, I want to make this happen for my own self, because I enjoy working, I enjoy doing it. And not finding reasons to be part of the problem, but to find reasons to be part of the solution, right? These things really help me. So my first message is, no matter what the situation is, you got to never give up, right? Keep racing. The pace may be something that we'll have to adjust, adapt, and embrace, but you got to continue to be in the race, right? That is my very key message to all of the women out there. And secondly, never plan your life so rigid that it lacks kind of flexibility. You got to work to be significant rather than be successful. Success will automatically follow, right? And even in my current organization, for example, I must definitely take a minute to share that with you. When I was being interviewed in this organization, there were a lot of mixed stories that I was hearing about my current organization, saying how miserable, toxic the environment is and stuff like that. I took that as a challenge, right? And today, I stand here as Vice President HR. In the history of Informatica India, there hasn't been a woman Vice President HR, right? So where you start believing to be significant in the organization and everybody else who's insignificant will fall out of the way. And that's what really happened to me. So to kind of cut this long story short, keep at it, keep going, ensure you're not giving up at any given point. The pace may vary, but you got to run the race, and you will run all by yourself, and success will only be yours. That's it from me. Neerja, back to you.
Thank you, Grace. Thanks for that. Yes, it is another of my taglines: run your race at your pace. And I hope everyone understands that and puts that into their heads. And it is their own career, it is their own ambition, and their own taglines. Glad that was another statement that got reinforced for me. Francia, I see that you started from being a call center manager, and now, of course, you've reached the pinnacle. You became the VP of Operations of Telepresence, and now I understand you are heading the contact center, Manulife Business Processing Center. And it does not appear to be something that a woman usually gets to do. Definitely, in the Indian context, I haven't seen too many women in a role like this. So we would really love to hear your journey and how being a woman has made a difference to the organization that you worked for more than 10 plus years.
Sure. First of all, I'm glad to be part of today's Women's Leadership Forum and to meet, other great women leaders in different industries. So thank you, Shiva and Partho, for organizing this event. I would say my parents had a huge impact on the person I am today. In fact, I'd say that they were the biggest reason I am so passionate about everything I do. My parents did everything they could to give us and my brothers and sisters an education and provide us the most comfortable life possible. I started my career in a male-dominated business area where I would say growth for women is limited. During that time, people have a conception that men are effective leaders while women lack this quality as we are perceived to be emotional and sensitive. My journey was not easy. I must say, I must stay competitive by further advancing my professional development. I ensure that every week I read books, attend seminars, and to always strive to be competitive in the workplace. Working in the BPO contact center environment wherein I manage people is, I would say, our most important core and advantage that plays a very big role to where I am right now. As women, our advantage is our sensitivity, intuition, and emotional intelligence, which help create a well-rounded workforce. We use our relationship building and communication skills to manage team effectively. We can make every employee of our team feel that their effort, contribution are valued. We can decode verbal cues. We're really good at that, reading the body language easily. And this quality makes us highly effective problem solver in any organization. Due to this emotional intelligence, I would say it is easier for us women to show compassion. We show that motherly affection towards our people we care. We allow our people to feel good, that they're very important part of the team. In the workplace, I would say I have that patience to hear out and understand my team's emotion. And that compassion I show with my team even helps them to boost their morale and productivity. I would say that we're also a good communicator. We're really good in motivating, and finally, we're givers. We enjoy inspiring others to excel in their jobs. And we believe that communication and collaboration are I would say, highly effective in achieving success. So as women, we contribute a lot to the business world today, whether in the medical field, in the BPO industry, whatever area we are in right now. We are inclusive, we are compassionate, and we believe that collaboration is important in the workplace. This is because it is innate in our women that we are empathetic in nature. We can decode emotions easily and build that strong relationship with employees. My experience and journey, I would say, whether bad or good, those characteristics that I mentioned earlier really shaped a very important role to who I am right now. As a result, I gained respect, admiration to the people that I work with, to the leaders around me. It was even a remarkable journey, I would say, for me to even lead a male-dominated team where we have male leaders, and it was a very encouraging way of leading them as well. So I believe that we are what we repeatedly do. If you want to be outstanding, you have to develop that habit of personal excellence in each area of life. I seek out that very best practices and strive to make those habits as daily part of my life. We women are blessed with gifts like patience, intuition, and optimism. We win everyone's heart and influence by driving them to be successful in every way of their life. Thank you.
Thanks for that sharing, Francia. Really, really inspirational. And yes, I think one of the qualities that we women bring in is the emotional quotient. And we are largely hearing that leadership now is not necessarily a masculine trait. It is, whether it's a woman or a man or anyone else, one needs to have a very high emotional quotient to be a good leader. Thank you for stressing on that point. This brings me to the next question, which bothers many of us, and I'm sure the audience would like to know about. How have you all, and I'll pose the questions to a few of you, allowed yourselves or managed to prioritize your own needs, and could be personal, could be at the workplace, could be spiritual, emotional, whatever they are, but we have so many needs. How does one actually prioritize these and assert yourselves everywhere to ensure that you are able to meet those needs? Yamini, can you go first with this question?
Sure. Thanks for that question. So when you look at it in terms of, I think this is one of the first points that Neeti had touched upon when we started, right? As women, probably we are wired little different. We try to put in more than the 100% wherever it is required. So because of that, we end up actually looking at everything as projects or things which we actually have to structure. I think what is really important is when you have set your mind to do something, please make sure that you're not giving up in way. That is something which I think Grace also touched upon. We cannot be giving up just because we are not able to manage the time, we are not able to manage the other aspects, or maybe the question that we cannot do it because we are women should never even arise in what we are doing. What's really important is grabbing opportunities. In my career, I have seen a lot of women probably hold back or lag behind only because they feel they may not be in a position to take up that, because whatever is the restrictions. I think first thing we need to stop is not to go forward. Just don't hold yourself back. And another important point is grab every opportunity. Look at everything as a positive influence, positive opportunity. The more we start doubting ourselves, we are actually going to create a lot more issues in our head. Because as women, the only thing that I actually, I usually don't differentiate between men and women. The only part which I say we women are little different are, the emotional quotient part of it. So we might probably tend to think too much about it, which might actually start creating a lot of self-doubts. That is something which I've never let me, it never stopped me anywhere, because I have also taken a lot of breaks. I had taken breaks because my husband probably moved between 4 different states. I had to obviously shift myself out and find a job wherever he was going. I had to take a break because I had a very difficult pregnancy, 2 miscarriages, and the child was born after a lot of difficulty. But then, in spite of that, when you come back, make sure that you're no less than anybody around. That is actually going to be extremely important. And keep yourself relevant. That I keep telling every woman that I meet, or every employee who's around, or even my team. My team is well balanced, because right now, if you look at it, I manage almost 22 countries across Africa, Middle East, and South Asia. Have a team of about 15 people managing this entire commercial team. But majority of them are women who are probably just like me, who really want to take on things and never give up. I think what the most important things and qualities are how you put your focus and make sure you go behind it, irrespective of what is holding you back. Just keep marching forward.
Thanks for that. And I would now, Pradika, I now have 2 questions for you, given that, I missed you in the first round. Of course, the first one being that I see that resource management has been your forte through your career. You began as a staffing specialist at Sapient, and now you're the director at KPMG heading resource management. I recollect an incident when I was asked to talk to the recruiters of a global IT services organization, which was having a big agenda into hiring women on a career break. The mandate for my talk was to convince the recruiters that it is an imperative to bring in talent from this pool, women who've taken a career break, and how this pool would help the business. And for some reason, in my head, when I was told that I could go and speak here, I thought I'm going to see men in the audience, right? The assumption that I made was that if the recruiters were women, then of course they would understand the need for bringing back women into the workforce after a career break. So I assumed that I'm going to talk to an all male, or a majority of male in the audience. And I went into that room. It was mostly women, and I had to quickly kind of find my ground and change my mindset and deliver that talk. The reason I bring up this incident is that I want to understand, in your long journey being in resource management, has it always been a women intensive unit, and how do you see being a woman and hiring women has impacted the end business goals? And I would also want you to kind of take on to the next question, which is about equity and equality, right? There are 2 different terms. While we are all talking about an equal place, but I believe and really understand that it is equity that one needs to look at. So if you could get some thoughts from you on that.
Sure. Thank you for that. So yeah, you're right about the fact that sometimes we have these stereotypical roles, and we have this mindset in our heads that certain roles are only fit for women, certain roles are only fit for men. They will perform better in a particular thing and not. Largely, I have seen this belonging to the resourcing team or the HR team, but I've just been very fortunate to have a mixed bag of team and of business, and especially in KPMG, we've been very fortunate to have phenomenal diversity and inclusion support teams that actually lead it. There is a lot of focus on it. So I think in these times especially, and I know for a fact that there is a lot of study that has been done on diversity with actual numbers and with actual figures to show. I remember reading somewhere that there was a Forbes study where they had quoted that 74% of all organizations have higher equity or assets value if their executive leaders are women, or if their leadership have at least 30% of women. So that in itself, and there is ample study in it. There is McKinsey study on it, there is a Harvard study on it, there's a University of California study on it. All of them consistently actually show that diversity actually improves business results, and which is a very, very important point. And I've been listening to everybody, we've all spoken about how each of our journeys have been so challenging, and each of our journeys have inspired and motivated us to do better. But while I'm totally for having more women in the team, I also really believe that for me personally, equality is not about doing exactly what men can do or what women can't do, etc. Because I really believe that we are different, we are made differently, we think differently, we react differently. So for me, it is all about accepting that difference of men and women, and yet being given the same opportunity to perform in a different way. So that to me is equality. It's not really about women can do everything that men can do, and men can't do, or men can do everything that women can. I think that's passé. It's really cliched. But yeah, there is this. I was reading somewhere that there was this. The tennis player Martina Navratilova. She had said that all sports are played on a 6-inch ground, all of them, which is between the 2 ears. So it's all about the mindset. It's all about what is there inside. So if you really, stick to things like, oh, this can't be done or can be done, then that is where the problem is. But I think a lot of businesses have now understood the importance of diversity, the importance of getting a holistic picture, and that is where women come in the sense that they bring in a holistic view, they bring in a balanced view, they think from a different perspective, probably more empathetic, but also especially in fields like HR and resourcing, they require to do a lot of confrontational conversations and a lot of stakeholder management and a lot of very difficult conversations. We women inherently can do this better. We can handle stress better, we can react to stress better, and we can at times stay more calm, we can take more mature decisions as well. So in my career of over 20 years now, I have definitely come to realize that men and women are different, and they should be different, because if they were same, then there was no need to have two different species. But they are different, but we need to accept them with the differences and yet provide equal opportunities in terms of equality. So that to me, I think has really helped me grow. In fact, my team has always been diverse. I proactively have time. There have been times when I've looked for men, if possible, because we were women heavy. So just so that we have a little more diverse opinion, we have more comfortable atmosphere so that we perform better. I really believe that we should have equality in terms of diversity. So that has really gone a long way in bringing out business results for better value add to the business. And I don't think there is any doubting that. So yeah, those are my 2 cents.
Thanks for that, Radhika. And whenever we speak about equality and equity, some of us may have seen that picture about the 3 kids, trying to watch a match, and there is this fencing, translucent or big fencing, and the heights of the 3 kids are different. So there's one that can just stand and watch, and the second one is given 1 stool, and the third one is given 2 stools to make it equitable. Otherwise, only the tall one can watch the match, and that's the difference between equality and equity. And I think my own career started actually because my manager in Sonata, when I was still studying, I was doing a course at NIIT, and this was a role that I had to perform in shifts, and it was not working out for me because of some clash. And my manager at Sonata, she told me that she will give me a dedicated PC so that I can manage the work and also go and study and come back as long as I finish the deliverables. So there was no grace given on, amount of work to be done and the quality of work. That had to remain, as what was stipulated. The only exception that was made was given a dedicated PC instead of coming and working in shifts where the PC is shared. And to me, I think that's how you bring about an equitable, organization. While equal opportunities can be provided, but one needs to understand the needs of who we are trying to work with. Okay, is Francia around? And I would really like to hear from her around the equity and the equality aspect. Francia. How can women contribute to advancing equity at the workplace so that we kind of have a more equitable organization and more equitable world?
Sure. For me, organization must take steps to ensure that all have access to the same, I would say, career and skill building opportunities, and that broad range about new leadership opportunities have access to all women, and women are evaluated and considered fairly. I also believe that in order to contribute to drive equity at work, it is needed that women should be given fair access to trainings, regardless whatever industry desired skills they want to get. Second, women should be part of campaign towards equality in the workplace as well. For me, these things would never be done overnight. Therefore, everyone should be eager to follow up to make sure that these changes in women's welfare are all met, and we all take part in this. Regardless how little we think we can contribute, we have to make ourselves count.
Thanks, Francia. And with that, I would like to now open the last question to whoever is still around with us on the panel. The question being, how does one achieve an equal future in the COVID-19 world? And we did touch upon that, but definitely everyone's thoughts around with the challenges that we saw in 2020, with the disruptions that were anyway coming in 2020, kind of threw it all over the place. But I think we as a human species have really adapted well, and we've kind of turned around our business plans and turn around how we manage our workforce in these dire situations, and still kind of emerged victorious, if I can say that. What would each of you want to say is your choose to challenge action plan in 2021 so that we see more women in leadership? Anyone can go.
First of all, to kind of learn from our own experiences, right, before we go to say what is that each of us can do, to make a difference and to ensure we infuse more diversity in the workplace and also promote women. I think if we kind of ponder on what are some of the things that this work from home, has taught us or provided in terms of opportunity. Personally, for me, I delegate more, right? I delegate more, whether it is home or work, right? I fill my plate with things which are absolutely actions that call for my intervention and my input, right? Anything that somebody else could do, I would rather delegate and ensure that work is done, right? And second, it's very, very important. While all of us have a to-do list, I always have a not to-do list as well, right? A lot of times we end up doing things which we should not be doing, right? Just because we think it's essential, it's important, it's urgent, right? And that adds on to a lot of stress. So the first question to ask is, do I have a not to do list? And what goes into that not to do list, right? Most of the to-dos you will see getting shrunk because it's all moving to the not to do list because somebody else can do it, right? And of course, the most important piece also is communicating expectations very loud and clear, right? It's very, very important that we set expectations with our people at home, people at work, to say, these are my ground rules in terms of how I can work. You call me at 11 o'clock in the night, it's not going to work. I will not be able to, right, balance, right? And also, at home, let people know the ground rules as much as we can, right? To say, during this time when I'm on calls, then people need to ensure that I'm not expected to do something else, right? So that way, if people start appreciating that one is really trying to balance between too many things, then it becomes extremely easy for us to kind of manage, because we're only looking at top priority actions that need to be executed by us, and that list honestly will look much smaller than what it currently is. Now, what can we do to choose to challenge? I would say empowered women can only empower women. That's my long story short, really, right? Because each of us sitting in these positions are the people who need to lift others, right? Otherwise, no one will. So providing those opportunities for people, taking those strategic risks to invest in women is definitely going to be one big action among the other small things that we should focus on. Thank you.
Thanks, Grace. Banurika, would you like to,
Yeah, thank you, Neeraj. I was about to just chime in and completely agree with Dr. Grace had to share. I think the pandemic in one way or the other, while it is a huge setback for the economy in several sectors, including tourism, hospitality, and all of that, we have seen that it has accelerated the whole digital adoption. Right? The entire digital transformation has really picked up. While the CXOs were debating whether we should do it now, next year, and all of that, it just landed us in there in the thick of things, and everybody started adopting different tools, platforms. So the beauty of digital transformation is you and I, and even a street vendor, small-time kirana shop we saw succeeding during the pandemic. So what it has done essentially is given the power of reaching out to their customers who were actually enclosed in their own spaces at home. So that also gives and taps the potential of those women who earlier had challenges, say commuting 2 to 3 hours to work, or had to take care of children or elderly care. That segment of people who never thought that they could get back to work, they were on a sabbatical or they could not return back to work, it opens up doors for them. The entire gig economy is now at a very thriving space right now. There are people who can just upskill, especially on the digital skills. We know that in India itself, we have a huge skill gap today. It's not that there are not enough jobs. There are jobs, but there are not enough skilled people to be able to take on those jobs. So this pandemic actually gives that opportunity to those people who can invest in themselves, who can learn something new, and therefore go and take up jobs. And if somebody wants a job who can only do for a few hours a day or a few hours a week, even that flexibility is available today. Not just working from home, but also choosing what you want to do and how many hours you want to clock. I don't think it can get better than this. All of us know the struggles we have had the formative years of our own careers, right? We didn't have such flexibility then, but this pandemic is presenting that flexibility to women and men alike. So I would request that, that is something that everybody should tap into. That's a great opportunity knocking at the door. Two, I also see that when the beginning of the pandemic, there were a few layoffs and hiring freezes and all of that happening, people going on bench. We saw a lot more women and a lot more senior people getting laid off, right? So there will be a challenge, especially a mix of people who are at work today. We need more inclusion, not just diversity, bringing in more women into work, but generational diversity and generational inclusion, for example, is very important. I had a friend of mine, when I posted this session today, she said, ma'am, please bring up this, that I'm over 40 and I'm doing 3 jobs and people are not hiring women who are over 40. So I request this entire panel and session to be cognizant of that fact, that just because somebody is over that age of 40 and you think that they cannot be onboarded for various reasons, think twice, because at workplace, if you don't have generational diversity, we will miss out on the rich experience that this group of people can bring. They definitely have had a different economy and a different cycle and a different timeline that they were working, but that experience is something that will help business even today. So my request to everybody is on generational diversity, and what I want to choose to challenge, Neeraja, is the collective biases that we all have, both conscious biases and the unconscious biases. We have biases against our own selves, right? Can I do this? Can I not this? Am I qualified for this job? Should I apply for this job? Should I shift my industry now? I'm 40 plus. Is it okay for me to jump to the industry? Can I do? So we have all kinds of biases against ourselves, sometimes against our family members or peers or people whom we are interviewing. My own challenge to myself will be shed those biases, be extremely open and exploring, because there's not much inclusion. The pandemic has taught all of us one thing, right? The more inclusive we are. In the past, we thought if I have a clean house, regardless of how my neighborhood looks, I'm safe. Today, what we have learned is if I have to be safe, my neighbor has to be safe as well. Right? So bringing in that larger spirit of inclusivity is going to be a lot more important and required, especially in the long run. So that's my 2 cents, Neeraja.
Can we have Kankana?
I too need to leave in some time.
Please.
I think COVID has taught us so many things. For some, it has been very painful. Many have lost their lives. Many have lost their own family members. One thing which came up is in this COVID times is people learning to be more patient and more compassionate. And most importantly, I see there is a huge change in the orientation and expectation from the workforce in terms of acceptance of the fact that there are many things which are possible. Work from home, as many of you all have mentioned and alluded, is a concept which was very, very agnostic to the IT world. Particularly in, we never heard about it, unless of course you need to be on in a plant. That's very different. But other than that, in my own setup, work from home was something we never talked about. So pandemic has taught us, allowed us to find a way that if our intentions are right, if we provide an ecosystem in pandemic, we had no other choice but to adapt. Then I think we will be able to find a way of including more and more diversity, and not just being the gender diversity, but also what was talked by Bhanu, the generation diversity. And one has to believe in himself or herself. Yes, I was lucky when I quit my job, went into sabbatical. I know you asked me this question, Neeraja, how did you handle it? The last one I did in 2018. I mean, remember, I was not only a woman who decided to take a sabbatical, but I was 50 plus too. And I knew I had a big challenge of being accepted because I was 50 plus. And trust me, in my career, I've never got so many opportunities when I was looking for a job as much as I got during this sabbatical. In fact, the opportunities came to my doorstep for which I kind of decided to go back to work. I had no intention to go back to work. So my thought process is the world is inching towards acceptance. These changes are something which cannot happen immediately. To a great extent, COVID has accelerated some of these thought processes and also given an opportunity for including more people who may have had sabbaticals, who may have had long gaps, because as an outcome of COVID, there are so many people who have lost jobs. And if today, when things move up to the pace which I'm sure, very confident will move up at a faster rate than what we were probably before March 2020, we have to take this talent, and there will be a lot of opportunities. So please believe, and I don't think we will be given a choice to even think that someone has taken a break, someone has taken a sabbatical. What we need to be thankful that COVID has shown us a way that we can actually work from home and be as productive, as contributory to the organization than other times. So we need to have patience, conviction, and COVID has actually paved a path for more inclusion in the near future. That's my opinion about COVID.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Can I request Francia, to talk about her Choose to Challenge, and then Radhika?
I'll start with the pandemic. The pandemic has forced us to, I would say, change the way we live our lives today. I felt like the pandemic inspired a general feeling of empathy and humility that personally grounded me. It made me realize that 2020 helped amplify women's tenderness, affection, and sensitivity to a degree that it helped foster a spirit of togetherness that balance the negativity emotions because of COVID-19. This year's International Women's Day sends I would say, powerful message that encourages everyone to speak up and choose to challenge. This reminds us that change is not just about big actions, speaking up and calling out gender bias and inequality in our own way. It can also make a huge difference by just, creating a big difference in your little action. Our female representation in our current organization, I would say, is equal. We have a global women's alliance in our company, and diversity and inclusion and women in leadership is actually part of my objective right now in my current company as part of my 2021 strategy. So I urge every woman to keep moving ahead. As we move forward together, we will continue to make progress in addressing women's issue, whether at work or in our society. That's it.
Thank you. Radhika, would you want to go next?
So I think a lot of people covered it, but one of the things that the pandemic definitely showed us or taught us or expressed to everybody was that everybody realized how well women can multitask. We can really multitask. We can do anything and everything together. So for a change, men were like, oh my God, you do so much work. It was like that impression came out. And that was such a refreshing change, because for a change, they actually saw us do office work, homework, children, other random stuff at home in front of their eyes all day. And they were like, really? That was a refreshing change. But I think at the same time, we women need to stop being a superhero, and we really need to draw a line, and we don't have to compete, and we have to just let ourselves be and chill. And like, it's okay to not be perfect, and it's okay to not stretch, but we need to upskill or cross skill for us to be relevant. We cannot allow ourselves to be stagnant, and that is, I think, the mantra that COVID taught us, that we need to continue, if we need to move on. There is, irrespective whether we are at home, it's lockdown, or we're going out, etc., you need to continuously cross skill, upskill, learn and unlearn at times. For women especially, because we, frankly, it's like you said, one educated woman in the house can educate the whole family. It's like that. We really need to digitize ourselves. A lot of women, especially 40 above, 50 above, could never do UPI or Paytm or things like that. Everything was not digitized. It was always cash. Everybody is doing it now. It's a matter of mindset, right? We all learned it. So COVID has pushed our boundaries, pushed our levels to beyond imagination. Who had thought banking and government officers would work from home? I mean, would you ever think a court can work from home? That's not possible, right? But it's possible. That's what COVID taught us, that everything impossible is possible. That's my only 2 cents here.
Thank you, Radhika. Is there anyone else on the panel that has not taken a stab at the last question before I wrap up? I think I have ensured that everyone who's still there has been able to speak on the last question. And to your point, Radhika, I'm exactly sitting with 2 laptops and 1 phone here. This one laptop is showing me on the videos, my phone is doing my audio, and the third laptop is for my notes. And the internet has been really, crazy today, and I've been moving from room to room. So I'm glad that, I'm not a perfectionist, and so I'm still not feeling very bad that I messed up the whole situation today. I've still been able to be there in the role of the moderator and ask the questions, even if it has kind of thrown the flow a little bit out of gear. But I really want to thank Partho. I want to thank Shubha, and I want to thank all the panelists for being so open for this opportunity that was provided to me in terms of helping me moderate this, because with that came a few things for me. One is reflections of my own, personal life and professional life. A lot of learnings having gone through your achievements, and of course, listening to you on this panel, and a few things that I would take back, which I think everyone else should also keep in mind. And the first and foremost is, as a woman, can we please prioritize ourselves and our needs? And let's assert to everyone around us that this is what we wish to do and we can do. We have all these qualities which might be qualified as multitasker. We have a very high EQ, and we are quite patient. We are good problem solvers. We are good listeners. But over and above that, as somebody said, let's not try to be a superwoman. Let us prioritize what we want to do. And I think it was Radhika, did you say that, somebody else who said that, maybe Grace, who said, have a list of to-dos, but have a list of not to do things, right? And I always, look at it in a matrix format where I say that whatever you have, is it important and is it urgent? And if you're able to plot that on a 4-quadrant, I think it is so very visible to us, that particular quadrant which you can just throw away because it's not important, it's not urgent. And from another quadrant emerges the fact that this is important, but you can always delegate it and you don't need to do it. The other aspect which strongly came out is the necessity for all of us to continuously learn. There is an element of unlearning that we need to do, but the continuous learning, one cannot deny that anymore. While the Industry 4.0, brought that in, but I think the 2020 year has only expedited that, and one doesn't know how things are going to be in the future. And the future is not very far away, right? When we in the past used to say, okay, in the next 5 years, I think we have to talk in the next 5 months. And in closure to the Choose to Challenge theme that we've been talking about this whole month, I would quickly narrate 2 stories that I came across last year. One is, of course, this organization which was started in 2020. It's called Aspire for Her, started by Madhura Das Gupta Sinha. She started this for girls in the age group of 18 to 25 with the mandate that girls must be very intentional about their careers, and financial independence is a necessity for the girl. Doesn't matter whoever else is around her to support her financially. And the way this organization has grown in 1 year, from March 8th to 2021 March 8th, in terms of the number of members, in terms of number of alliances, corporate skilling partners, the reach it has had, and now they are building newer communities, either looking at women on a career break or women in banking technologies and so on. I think a pandemic has just enabled it, by leaps and bounds. And I have to tell you that this organization, other than Madhura, who's got 20 plus years of experience, is completely run by girls in the age group of 18 to 25, still in their college. So I think to the aspect of age doesn't matter. It is what you bring to the table, and if given an opportunity, they will make it happen, and make it happen much better than who we think can make it happen. The second is about another college girl who saw that the homemakers, mothers, were challenged, technologically challenged in 2020. Challenges in terms of how to even use WhatsApp, how to do phone banking, how to even maybe look at YouTube and learn something new. And this girl launched a venture or an initiative called as Space Up Moms. And she brought in mothers, homemakers, and she roped in a few people to teach them basic technology skills with the intent that over a period of time, maybe they'll actually, learn more technology and start their own businesses. So I think it is important for all of us in the positions that we hold, in the kind of influences that we are able to impact. How is it that we bring about these positive outcomes? And the future is ours. With that, I will once again thank for the opportunity provided, thank all the panelists for their time, and hand it over to Shiva.
Thanks, Neerja, for wonderful moderation. We're really loud talking to you, and you have engaged all the panelists so well. I'm sure that the audience have really learned a lot. I'm just thinking that if we can have a quick questions from the audience, if there is anything to, and now we have Banu and Radhika and you. If there are any questions, I would just enable the option to raise your hand. Just click your button to raise your hand so that we can unmute you. We could ask questions. This is for the audience. If there are any questions from the audience side, all you got to do is just click hand button.
I may not be able to see it given I'm close.
I'll help you out.
Sure, thank you.
Any question from anyone?
And this is another thing that, I say to all the women out there, when an opportunity comes, can you please grab it? And there's an opportunity for you to ask questions to, some of us over here who you may not otherwise have, an opportunity to interact with. Not saying that we are not available, but here is a platform. And so please, whatever is there in your mind, do ask. Or if you want to suggest something, you have an observation, we'll be happy to hear it out.
Great. I don't see any questions from the audience with this, so I invite Srividya. Srividya is Executive Vice President from GWFM to have her vote of thanks. Vidya, over to you.
Good evening once again. I feel honored and privileged to have this opportunity to propose a vote of thanks on this special day and to this special forum. On behalf of GWFM members, and convey my regards and hearty thanks to each one of you. Being a moderator is not an easy task. It's like setting the question paper and also evaluating it. So thank you, Nirja. You have done a great job as a moderator, both in terms of asking the right question to the right panelist and also summing it up at the end of the session. Thank you so much. And I thank each one, Mahajan, Bhanureka, Yamini, Neha, Kankana, Vaijayanti, Grace, Radhika, and Francia. As I heard each one of you respond to Nirja, it just took me through my journey of professional and personal life, the memory lane, be it sabbaticals like Yamini mentioned, be it need for freedom like Vijay, or not giving up what has been taken like what Neeti mentioned, juggling between task priorities, balancing personal and work commitments, getting your support system in place. So speaking of the women experiences, though we all go through similar phases, there are no two roads that look alike. So many obstacles and challenges that we go through. I had a friend of mine who asked me, embracing the unknown and multitasking comes to you women naturally. But still sometimes I wonder, how do you guys do it? So today, you all answer the yet how do you do it part so well, individually and collectively, on the challenges that you faced, how to get past them, and how you converted each one of these challenges into opportunities that has led you to the helm of affairs in your respective leadership roles, but yet being grounded. Thank you so much once again. And I'm sure you all can really contribute as mentors to the young women who are entering their professional lives. Thank you once again. Thank you, Shiva. Thank you, Partho, for organizing such a wonderful event.
Thank you, ladies, for your precious time. We are deeply grateful. Hope the audience had a wonderful eye-opening session, and I think we'll take a lot of stuff home and we'll be better people. That's the only expectation that I have.
Thank you so much for all the distinguished speakers for taking your time out, and thanks all for all the audience for taking time to listening to them. And it's been a fantabulous initiative which GWFM started at the APAC and ANZ regions. Next week we have another women leadership roundtable at North America, Latin America, and then from the India side. Looking forward to seeing you people again, and looking forward to seeing other part of the world joining in. Others, thank you so much for being there. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a great interaction. Looking forward to hearing from everyone once again later.